and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, so then we are here for the interim fire chief. Today is interim chief Chewinski's last day. He is finally entering retirement. So I want to first say thank you to Chief Chewinski for heading up the department for the last 9 months?
Over a year.
It's been over a year?
About a year.
About a year or so. Yeah, just around a year.
It doesn't seem that long ago. Wow. We've had some new things come out of the department in terms of, policy and procedure and things like that, that will definitely keep us moving in the right direction. So tonight, gentlemen, we are going to discuss our new interim fire chief.
Madam Chair, before you start, I have spoken with town council regarding this, and it is his advice that when the board, before the board even chooses a candidate to be put as interim, that it be well known to all the prospective candidates that this appointment will be on condition that they will resign upon the hiring of the permanent fire chief. Because the enabling legislation is 4842 for our department. And again, 4842, you're the chief until you either resign, retire, get a job elsewhere, or die. So he is very adamant that this board make it abundantly clear that in this process, the interim fire chief will be required to agree to resign upon the appointment of the permanent chief.
Now, will that be written into the contract?
Yes,
Yeah.
I want him to assist in writing the contract to make sure we have all this trying to be buttoned up, so that
Okay.
everybody
Okay.
knows up front that, yes, it is 4842, the strong chief's law, but for this appointment, it's conditional that you agree to resign.
Okay, so I guess we will make sure we put that in the motion if a motion is made.
I have another stipulation too, as far as that with the interim chief. I don't want him or her to have the ability to make promotions.
Ability to what?
Make promotions.
Okay.
Excuse me 1 second, I'm sorry.
And
Oh, okay.
We're looking at an interim chief at this point for probably 1 to 2 months. And I wouldn't want that.
I think that's very ambitious. I think we're going to be looking at 3 months.
You're gonna be
plus.
advertising for at least a month.
Yeah, so we got 3 to 6 months, because I don't want to rush this decision at all.
And
I
then
don't
you're
think
gonna
it's
turn it over
6
to a,
months. It's,
No,
I
I'm saying
figure
3
4.
to
I figure
6,
4.
6 being the max that we have.
well, I mean, if we're gonna advertise for a month or so, I wouldn't think it's gonna take us more than a month to interview candidates. I mean,
We don't know what the response is gonna be, we don't
Well,
know what the search committee's gonna end up
Right,
doing.
but that's what I mean, so I mean, I look at the search committee for the police chief, they had 9 candidates. I mean, unless we get 30 candidates for this position. I said, I would like to move this along. I don't have, expedite this, so there should be not that.
And
If it requires additional meetings for this board to meet, I'd like for this board to do that so we can have a permanent chief in place.
and I
as soon as
agree with you,
possible.
but it's the ability of the members of the search committee to be able to get together as rapidly as the police chief search committee did. Because we don't know who the members are, we don't know if they have full-time jobs, so on and so forth down the line, what their schedules are like too, so.
With that said, to the search committee, that I would stress that too, that we want to move quickly on this, not, I do like to expedite this. I mean, the fire department's been in, I don't want to say limbo, but it's been in limbo for the past several years. It's time for us to make sure we get this done, expedite it. I mean, I'm not saying to rush it, but I'm saying to expedite it so we can make sure that it gets done in an expedient manner, but in a correct manner. I think we can do both.
I would like to ask the committee to be as thorough as they possibly can. Even if that means visiting in person, things like that. So I'm not thinking that we can get this done within 3 months.
I'd rather us take our time than rush it.
And I understand that the fire department has been in limbo, and that is why I would like to make sure that we are as thorough as we possibly can be, because I don't think that they deserve to have any chance of a repeat of this situation.
I didn't say rush it, I said expedite it, and I think, again, expedite it means us for us to do a thorough job on it. It doesn't mean to not do a thorough, practice as far as interviewing and things like that. I just say that, if we can expedite it on our part, where we have all the information from the search committee and this board can meet to move it forward sooner or later, that's what I'd like for us to do.
And I agree with that. I mean, I want to have a permanent chief in place as soon as we possibly can for them. I mean, my concern is that, we go through the posting, and what if we don't have any qualified candidates and we've set the expectation that the interim will serve 2 months? I don't want to set that expectation.
Well, that expectation wasn't there. My only point was that I didn't want the interim to have the ability to promote people. If that person is going to be there 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, I like for the person that's going to be the full-time chief, they have the ability to look at his or her staff and decide what he feels or she feels is best for the department. That's what I'm saying.
Do we have the ability to do that, given that it's strong, chief, or is that
To do what?
to not allow them to promote?
I don't think we should handicap the interim chief. I agree somewhat that you shouldn't be promoting from the new person, but with the interim, and leave it for the final decision for the new chief. I agree with that part of it, but if something happens along the line and we need to promote somebody, then we need to promote somebody.
Do you
Well,
want to make it
it's not
conditional?
us, it's the chief that promotes.
Right.
Do you want to make it conditional with the approval of the select board?
That's,
If
I
we
would like that.
legally can.
Just in case,
Yeah.
as Rick says, that some emergency comes up, all of a sudden, half your lieutenant staff all of a sudden decides to up and quit for some reason or whatever, and you need command staff,
Right.
type of stuff.
I like that. Would you actually have we'll have checks and balances that way,
I
Yeah,
agree with
that's
checks and
what we need.
balances.
In the past, they've made those acting.
Just stand up and introduce yourself for us, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bill Bergeron, GRANBY Fire, I'm a lieutenant.
Thank you.
I haven't met you yet. Apologize. So, in the past, the department, when we needed officers, like Glenn said, it's only fair to the new guy that comes in as a permanent chief to select his own command staff. However, the guy that's in there could only make positions as acting, so that he can surround himself with the people he needs to have jobs done, and just require that they're only acting positions versus permanent positions, because in reality, any promotion should be handled by test and, performance stations and things like that. There should be a process involved. It shouldn't just be handed out. That's how we've normally done it in the past. So any positions that they make, if they do need them, should only be acting positions at any time.
So I guess, you're gonna follow up with town council in regards to the wording and language in the contract. So I'd follow up on that point too. Is that something we can do? And it's that person signing off on the contract, so that person agrees to that as their responsibilities and their duties as their interim chief. If they don't agree to it, then they don't have to accept the
Then
position.
they don't accept the position. I mean, looking at the candidates that we have in front of us, I don't think any of them would go on a promotion spree, but I do like the idea of those checks and balances.
Well, just so the board knows, we did receive 4 letters of interest.
It's, yeah.
If you see that.
First one is from Lieutenant Chinas. The second one is from Lieutenant Tyler Yvonne. The third one is from Micheline Turgeon. And the fourth one is from Lieutenant William Brazier. Just so the board knows, Mr. Yvonne and Miss Turgeon are on the ambulance tonight. So I didn't know they wanted to be here during this process, but they may be out on a call.
Well, I'm gonna
or
say the ambulance
unavailable
takes
for tonight,
precedence.
Just so you know that.
And Mr. Oz?
Mr. Oz went on vacation today. He's down in Myrtle Beach until Wednesday, August 4th.
Okay, thank you. Has everybody read the letters? Have they had a chance?
I read.
The only thing I have a concern with, and is that, well, two of the members of this board have interviewed three of the people on this panel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, three of the people that have requested, so I don't know if that's a disadvantage to actually Mr. Brado that's putting forth, because neither of us, anybody in this panel has interviewed him,
Nope.
or has Rick had the opportunity to interview any of the people that are listed that applied for it or shown interest in it. So I'd ask Rick if, I mean, do you wish to proceed? Do you feel that you want to meet with the people beforehand? As I said, we've interviewed three of the candidates that applied already, so I feel that we have a little more knowledge than.
The answer,
We have the background.
quick answer is yes. When I was appointed liaison, I actually talked to two of them already, but just to introduce myself
Yep.
as a liaison and didn't get into any depth of any of this stuff. I haven't talked to Tyler or Bill. So I would like the opportunity to
Okay.
at least speak to them a little bit.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair.
Or I mean, I could do it this week.
Yeah, would this chair be okay, would this board be okay with continuing this or setting another meeting for us to make that decision?
When do we meet next?
We meet Monday
Monday.
next.
Monday.
Monday is your regular meeting.
Monday is our regular
And then the
meeting.
4th, you have police chief
Police chief
final,
interviews.
Yeah.
final interviews. So,
I'm not comfortable leaving the department without a chief for very long. I don't know if it's possible, Rick, if you could
Speak to Bill right now for a few minutes.
just speak to Bill,
Well,
right?
we can do that, I don't know if he's
If you wanna
ready
do
or if he
that,
wants to
have
prepare.
Have you had a chance to speak to Mish?
Yes.
Okay, so
Mitch
basically.
and Jean were at this station when I talked.
Okay, so it's Tyler and Billy that you have not,
Yeah.
Have you had the opportunity, Rick, to speak to him as
as
for a position,
potential
and interviewing
candidates?
him for a position? 'Cause like-
I encouraged them to put in their letters when they
Okay.
need there.
Okay,
I mean,
did.
either way, as long as you're comfortable,
Yeah.
you feel that you have enough information to make a decision, that's on you, and I just wanted to make sure that you have.
No, I appreciate that. It was,
so it's basically it's Lieutenant Yvonne and Lieutenant Bragiel that you need to speak to? Okay,
I have some information on Lieutenant Yvonne. So through the temporary chief that just retired again.
okay.
But,
Well, if you'd like, we
can I
can,
have recess for a couple
yeah, we
minutes?
can recess
Yeah?
10 minutes,
10
15
minutes?
minutes?
10 minutes, go ahead.
10 minutes, all right.
Well, recess for what?
Recess so that he can speak to Lieutenant Bragiel.
I think we should do that as a board.
Afterwards?
No, now, because all the other people were interviewed on camera.
You want to interview him?
Well,
I mean, I feel bad to put him on the spot.
well, that's what I'm
since
asking.
he's
If,
not-
if he's not ready, then I would ask that we set a date for one day next week that we can all, and then you have the chance to,
Are you up for it?
I'm up for it.
so.
Okay.
I'm not putting him on the spot, but that's,
Come on up. You-
Now, I'm going to apologize because we ask all the candidates the same exact question. We don't have the questions we asked the candidates last time, so it's probably gonna be off the cuff.
That's okay.
Okay,
Want me to start?
you can start.
Bill, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on and what are your,
So
some of your certifications?
I've been with the GRANBY Fire Department since 1991. I spent about 26 years, 27 years as a EMT with the department. I was a EMT intermediate and for about 20 of those. Just recently, I let my card expire and I stopped running the ambulance. I've been a lieutenant. I probably now for about 9 years, and once before that, I had left the department one time for 2 years, and I came back. Prior to me leaving the department, I was a lieutenant for 7 years at that time. And my certifications, they're
Fire 1, 2, 3.
no, I didn't. So back when we started the department, not started the department, but when I got on the department, we did A, B, C, and D. So I went through the Mass Fire Academy certifications up to firefighter 1 and 2 through what they had to offer at the time, which I think was the highest level was like D or F. And we did a lot of that was all done in-house where the state came out and we did the classes on site in Granby. They were state-sponsored classes. When I took the officer's position the first time, we had to study for it. We had multiple tests and performance stations that we had to attend to get through the lieutenant process. We weren't required to have any of the officer classes at that time. So on the second round, I was kind of grandfathered, not having to take the fire officer 1 and 2. Most of the time with my time with the fire department, the big need in the department was always EMS. So I kind of put a lot of my time into being certified and maintaining that certification for EMS side of the service. When I first started on the fire department, we weren't even a paramedic level at the time. We were just the intermediate level. So I went after the intermediate. Me, Micheline, and a few others helped maintain that license. There was minimum requirements for staffing, so we helped maintain that until they actually went to paramedic. At one point, about 5 years ago, I actually took a paramedic class, and we were unable to complete it. It was an online course, and it was a difficult course to take. We started with 30 people out of the course. I think like 6 people actually made it through the course. But I made it all the way to the very last module, and you're only allowed to fail 2 tests, and I failed neurology out of all the ones to lose it on. So I didn't get my medic. And then shortly after that, the requirements for intermediate changed and the skills that you were able to do changed, but the schooling really got, the recertification process got really intense. So at that time I chose that I had enough EMS under my belt and it was time to give it up. If I was considered as, permanent fire chief, that's like I stated in my letter, I would actually get my EMT back. I would have to retake a course. I would do it on my own time, and I'd just get my EMT back. That would be my goal. Any of the certifications that I would need to fulfill the position, I would be more than willing to, find a time frame that you guys would allow me to actually get those certifications. I currently run my own business. I've been doing that for the last 7 years. I've been in heating, air conditioning, and commercial industrial refrigeration for just about 35 years now. It's very time consuming and labor intensive, and I'd like to try to make it to retirement so that I can still walk. And so my goal is actually to try to qualify to become the fire chief and run the department. Between all my life experiences with what I've had to deal with you know, I work on a lot of municipal jobs. I work on federal jobs. I've been in the union. I spent like 10 years in the union, so I'm familiar with the ins and outs of the unions, labor negotiations and things like that. So my past life experience has a lot of exposure to what the day-to-day operations of managing our department are. So my big philosophy on the fire department is that keeping everybody safe, making sure that they have the tools to do their job, and just supervise them and guide them along and let them do their job. I mean, with our fire department, one of the biggest challenges is there's a lot of personalities and people tend to do their own things here and there. And communication and guidance is a big part of the fire service. Sorry, go
Can I
ahead.
stop you for a second?
Sure.
on that? No, the communication problem with the other people, is that an issue? Is there conflicts arising out of that? And if there is,
No, I just
if you
think-
get it, the interim chief, how would you solve that problem?
I think it's not something I would call a conflict, more of an inconsistency. I would just make sure that we were consistent with what we did. I think the best role model is somebody that leads by example. And if you lead by example, a lot of people will follow the way that you lead. So if you expect somebody to do something a certain way, you have to do it that way yourself. And you have to hold people accountable, especially your officer staff, that they're doing the same thing. In the fire service, it's very critical that we're all on the same page and we do things the same way. And a lot of times, it's just everybody leading by example. Like Jennifer stated, we have a clear set of rules now and standards that everybody can follow. And if we hold people to those rules and standards, it should be a pretty easy job. This is probably my 6th fire chief with the fire department. So I've got to work with multiple personalities and see what works and what doesn't work. And I think Chief Anderson was probably the most effective chief. He had a great way of like watching the things everybody does and just guiding them along and intervening without them even knowing that they're being intervened on or guided. You know, it's very important to let people do their jobs, and it's the chief's job to make sure that they have the tools, the knowledge, and whatever it takes to get their job done. And you got to be willing to step in and help them out to accomplish their job. I've got a saying, the hardest part about being a fire chief is you have to be an advocate for your firefighters, you have to be an advocate for the town, and you have to be an advocate for the budget. I've seen a lot of stuff that we bought that just goes by the wayside, and it doesn't make any sense a lot of times. So financial responsibility in a fire chief is a really big part of what needs to be in our new candidate. You know, a lot of things, I'm a big fan of committees and input from the people when you're buying things. Do you really need this? You know, it's not the fire chief's fire department, it's the town of Granby's fire department. So everybody needs to be a part of what takes place in that department. You know, and I think, like I said, Chief Anderson did a great job of making everybody buy into that. With the communication part, when the communication breaks down, the morale drops down and people don't feel relevant. My goal, as if I were to get the chief's job or even the interim job, would be to bring back that feeling that everybody is relevant. Because without that feeling, you don't get the commitment, you don't get the response, you don't get the interest that we need from these members. So everybody's got a place. Not everybody needs to be busting down the door with an axe, but everybody's got a place on the fire ground, and every spot on the fire ground or during a day-to-day basis is very important. So I think if you make the people feel that way, it makes for a more stable, pleasant work environment. It's the
best way to describe it, it's all about respect. You know, I was talking to the chief today, and we said point blank, you know, you don't have to like each other, you just have to respect each other. And when you have that mutual respect, it goes a long way. And that would be my goal, to get everybody to work together, learn everybody's personalities, and try to make sure everybody keeps that mutual respect, you know.
All right, I got another question. It's the command structure. Now, when I was down there, there's like 7 lieutenants.
Right.
Who takes charge of the, let's say there's a house fire. 3 lieutenants all show up, and who's in charge?
So this is why I said about the acting part, where, you know, if you guys, when Glenn brought up the fact that the new guy should be able to pick his own command staff, it's only fair to him that he's able to do that. In the fire service, having that chain of command is extremely important. Luckily, with the officer staff that we have, I've been a big part of that, making that well known, that we're not all lieutenants. Your seniority has, and your rank number has something to do with the chain of command. So right now, the higher your number, the lower you are on the totem pole, for lack of a better analogy. So sometimes they say, oh, no, you're all lieutenants. And it's a very gray area right now. And to me, always having that command staff, we always ran with a chief, 2 deputies, 2 captains, and lieutenants. At one point, we had 4 lieutenants, and we had it broken down into 2 groups. I mean, you really don't need that many officers, but that command structure was really nice to work under, because it was clear and concise of who was calling the shots. And it's on the fire ground, it's very, very important to have that command structure. And we
Okay.
got to get back to that as soon as possible.
Okay, as an interim one is what we're talking about right now.
Right.
How would you solve that problem?
I would probably take the people that I trust, because I'm a firm believer that you,
Or any of these other candidates?
absolutely,
trust?
all of them would be in the loop of what we would do. I personally, I would love to see our fire department set up so that the day crew, the 2 officers on the day crew would actually be captains. They would fill the captain's positions. The nighttime officers would be lieutenants. I would like to see so our chain of command right now is senior firefighters have say over new firefighters, which includes the day staff.
Yep.
In our department, one of the things with the day staff, they're there all the time. So they know a lot more of where everything is on the trucks. They got a lot more exposure to what's going on a day-to-day basis. So they really should have a little bit more seniority than the call guys that come in twice a month for training and whenever there's calls. So I would put them, you can't make them officers, but I would make it known that the day crew actually has seniority on the fire scene over the call firefighters, only because of their exposures. A lot of the day crew, they've had the formal fire academy training, which is a lot more than some of the other people. So there's a big advantage to using the knowledge that the day crew carries. So
Okay.
I would use that as an advantage to help, because sometimes, even in the call department, sometimes we don't have officers even show up. That's why we're trying to have officers on call all the time, every night. It's very hard to do that, especially for myself. I mean, I got a lot of critics because I run a business, so I'm not always able to get back into town like I want to cover my officer shift. I've gotten,
That's a great segue. I want to talk about the call fire department.
okay.
Now, when I was a cop here in town, it was mostly call firefighters.
Right.
That came in. How would you encourage or improve the amount of call fire?
6 o'clock. Sorry, sir.
How would you encourage to get more call firefighters on board?
I think the best way to do it is word of mouth. You know, if you have an inviting place and you got guys that are having a good time and experience the things that I've experienced, they bring people in. Right now, call
bringing people on and retaining them is the biggest challenge. So you can find people, but once you get them, the big challenge is retaining them. You can advertise multiple ways. I've seen all sorts of campaigns that we've done, and it brings in people, but we tend to have a revolving door. So I think the best way to retain them is to make them feel relevant and important and a part of the organization. And I noticed that when people show up at calls and they're not assigned things to do and they're not part of the thing that's going on, they lose interest fast. I mean, it takes a lot of training to do what we do, and when you have that training, you want to put it to use. So everybody's got to be part of the team and play in the game, for lack of a better term. And it doesn't even, it's not just calls that goes with. It goes with fundraising. It goes with our functions that we do at night for our fundraisers, different things that we do. Everybody's got to buy into it and be a part of it. And it really, I mean, I had some of the best years on the department with some of the groups that we had. And it really turns into a family environment. You know, I got a lot of friends over the years from all the surrounding towns with all the things that we've done. And everywhere I go, I feel like I have brothers in the fire service. And to have everybody buy into that, that's the best way to get them to stay. I think that's the biggest challenge in the fire service.
Yeah, we need more. Could you tell us a little more about your budgeting experience and how you would handle it here in the Granby Fire Department?
So with the budgets that I have to do, it's a little bit different because they're construction orientated. There's a lot of bidding. A lot of times I'm dealing with like towns and municipalities. So there's times that, you know, they can spend a certain amount of money on certain things. So I'm trying to, that one caught me a little off guard because it's a complex question, because the town budgets and a construction budget are two different things. But, the best way I could describe it would be, you have to take your overall budget and prioritize where all the pennies are gonna go. So that's basically how I would run our budget is, you know, everything that you spend, you have to look at it as, it's not your money, it's the town's money, and you have to be responsible with it. So, I know with our budget on the fire department, I think we've got, the last time we went over it with the last fire chief, I think we actually have about 30 line items listed in the budget on things where the money's allocated, where they're gonna go. So the challenge is to divide that up into the most important parts. You know, the biggest thing in the town of Granby is, you know, I've always said, we either have the major incident or the false alarm. So, or the small room and contents fire. So if you can be prepared for the littler incidences and keep them at little incidences, then they don't turn into big incidences. So it's the same thing with the budget. You put the money where it's going to be the most effective, and that's how I would handle our budget. You know, you got to deal with personnel, you got to deal with equipment, you got to figure out, you got to kind of anticipate what's going to break down the road. You know, you can't spend all your budget and not have money left over for when things break. And I can tell you, our guys break a lot of stuff. So I know how to prioritize a budget and work with the numbers. And
Okay,
So-
thank you. You guys have any questions?
I have one, do you? Go ahead.
Bill, you talked about having your own business.
Yeah.
So obviously, the interim fire chief is a full-time job.
Right.
So if you were given the opportunity, that would most likely almost start immediately after you were given the offer and accepted. Would you be able to do that with another full-time job?
So, it's kept me up at nights, to tell you the truth, because I'm pretty successful at what I do. It's a pretty, you know, I know going into it what the job pays. it's a life-changing event. The interim fire chief, I was kind of looking at the way Bruce was running it for a little while, Deputy Chief Carpenter, when he was interim chief. So what I was gonna try to do is talk with Chris and see if I could work it out, so, because you said it's only gonna be a couple of months, and
Well, as Jen said, it could be up to 6 months.
could be 6 months or whatever. And what I was hoping is in that 6 months, I could actually prove myself and, show that I'm qualified to do the job, and, maybe make some, good headway with morale and things. Not that we have a big morale problem, but, I think a lot of it I could do, kind of like the way Bruce did it. Come in the morning, handle the paperwork that needs to be done on a daily basis, meet with the guys, figure out what's going on during the day, and then I would only have to do that for a couple of weeks, and because obviously having a business, I do have a few larger contracts that I have to fill over the next month. I got a couple of good-sized jobs that I have to complete, and I can't just skate away on that. But I would be able to fill in kind of the way Bruce was doing his job, at least for a couple of months until you guys could, get a permanent guy in there. And I would try to spend as much time as I could in the station and still maintain my customer base, so that when, if I didn't get the job, I still have to have a career. So it's asking a lot from the board to consider that. I understand that, especially, I'm going up against a few candidates that have a lot of certificates and a lot of schooling. They're good people. However, I think I shine because of my life experience and the experiences that I have had, my knowledge of building construction and things like that, just from the stuff that I've been exposed to. So I think working with Chris on the hours required, I would find a way to meet those hours, to make sure that the job was filled and things were communicated properly and the department ran.
My understanding is the board is gonna wait to decide until next week, or look to
I
decide.
didn't hear you. What?
Is the board looking to decide this evening, or push this off till next week?
You have yet to speak to Lieutenant Yvonne, correct?
Yeah, I haven't spoke to him.
So,
'Cause,
I thought we needed somebody.
Well,
Well,
we
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 do,
do.
but-
I mean, it won't be a major issue if we don't make the decision tonight. It might be something that we have to touch on at the next meeting, but we need to make a decision quickly, but it's not have to be immediate.
Well, I think we could definitely make a decision next week.
Right.
Write it down.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
immediate, meaning tonight.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is, for me to move forward, and Bill, to be, for you to be considered as a candidate for the position, I need to know a schedule that you can dedicate the time to the department. I need to know that written down beforehand, before I could actually make that decision. So that's.
Is that something that I could actually talk to Mr. Martin about and work out with him?
It is, and I would, that's what that's what I'm about to get to, is that's why I asked the board when they're looking to make a decision, because that's information that I would need.
Right.
To say, okay, well, I need to make sure that whoever's leading that department is available for that department. So that's
So-
to me.
So whether I got the intern or the full-time, one of the things that I would do on a daily basis would be morning meetings. I'm a big fan of everybody knowing what's going on, who's in charge, where I'm at, who's running the department when I'm not there, so that somebody will always know what's going on. And I'll make sure that the department knows what's going on. And not only that, I will be doing emails weekly to the whole department to make sure that, I'll give them an insight to what we did for calls, what's going on, what's coming in. I really want to open up the communication to the department. I think by everybody getting that communication, it's going to bring in that relevant part and make them feel relevant to buy into the department. You know, a lot of what we're doing now, nobody knows what's going on. And it's, you know, when you're in emergency services, you don't want to be left hanging. You know, there's times where we're the chief as lieutenants, and we're not supposed to be chiefs. We're interior officers, you know, and we shouldn't have to fall into the position of fire chief. You know, and I would make sure, even as the interim guy, that there's always somebody qualified that's going to handle the next emergency that comes up, because you never know what could happen.
So I would ask of you to submit to Mr. Martin a schedule that you
Okay.
can commit to. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a concern or an issue where someone as fire chief isn't there, you know, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
Right.
I like to have someone that's there in the evening, someone there in the day, someone there that's, you know, the midnight shift, 12 to 8, or in between, you know, someone that's there for the department, to see how the department's running 24 hours a day, because it's obviously a 24-hour-a-day department.
Right.
So that's what I would look for, whether it's an intern chief or a full-time chief or someone that's gonna be there, and the need for that.
So-
That's why I wanna make sure is that when the call comes, is that person is available to be there.
So
that
other
department.
than the two, of all the times, other than the two commitments that I have right now, 99% of the times, I'm in the area. If we have, there's, you know, most of our incidents probably last about 20, 30 minutes. They're not long incidents. So a lot of times I don't make the daytime calls because, you know, I'm not gonna drive all the way across town and then sign in and go home. But I am able to respond. If we have an emergency, I haven't missed a house fire yet in town. I find a way to get here, and I could do that. I will continue to do that whether I get the intern position or not. You know what I'm saying?
So
'Cause
let
I-
me make it to you, as, like I said, as far as to write or put together a schedule.
Okay.
Or submit a schedule to Ms. Martin. It may be, you know, on Monday, I'm there from 7 to 3.
Right.
Tuesday, I'm there from 4 PM to 12 PM. And I'm there on a Saturday, you know, there's no saying someone, to me, it's, you're a chief, you're the department of the, excuse me, the head of the department. So to me, it's not a full-time job, but
It's a
full-time
commitment.
job.
It's a
commitment.
it's a
You
24-hour
need to be
commitment.
available when calls come in and
Right.
stuff like that. So, you know, in talking with Mr. Martin, hey, you know what? Doesn't mean, maybe you don't work Tuesday and Wednesday during the week, and you're there on a Saturday and Sunday or something like that.
Right.
That's, I mean, that, to me, it's a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour position.
So, you know, part of my train of thought with trying to put this whole puzzle together on how I could make this intern thing work, I want to just make it clear that I won't be doing my business on fire department when I'm in the station working. If I'm in there doing paperwork, I'm not going to be texting and talking to customers. I will be dedicated to the town. You know, there's a huge conflict there, and I don't want you to think that I want to take this job and run a business at the same time. That just wouldn't be, you know, but I'm still dedicated, and I'll talk to Chris and we'll put together that schedule to make sure it meets the town's needs.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Lieutenant. The first one is regarding what you had said, being with the department, leaving and coming back. What caused you to leave and what caused you to come back?
So I left for about 2 years. There's always a lot of drama in the fire department. I won't lie. At the time, we had some serious stuff going on with some of the personnel that was in there. Something was done to me, it wasn't very fair, and to be quite honest with you, I quit the department abruptly in a very unprofessional manner. I can honestly say I regret it every day, what happened. I was embarrassed. I was told something prior to walking in the meeting in front of 30 people. I was told about it in the parking lot by the chief. It really wasn't fair. I was kind of sideswiped by it, and I made a huge mistake, and I left the department. And then when Richie Gay was in there as fire chief, I went in and I pleaded my case to Rich about trying to get back on because all the schooling. I mean, up until probably maybe 10 years ago, I would take 3, 4 different certification classes a year. You know, the one thing about the fire service is the education never stops. You know, everything's a changing thing. So I took a lot of courses. I was really, really dedicated to the department. I took training pretty serious. So at the time, a lot of things happened that shouldn't have happened, and that's why I left the department. And once you're a firefighter, and you're kind of always a firefighter, so.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, I've got to see a lot of really wonderful things, a lot of really sad things. And, I mean, it's been a journey, I can tell you that much. And I'd like to make that journey so everybody can have the memories that I have.
And my second question is, something you had said in regards to our call force, in that we can't retain them, and you mentioned it being somewhat tied to relevancy. Are there any other issues that are causing us to not be able to retain call force?
I think it's just it's a national issue with the whole fire service, because today, time just flies by for everybody. It just seems like it passes by. So it's hard to have that commitment. You know, it's really hard. Unless you experience getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and working as hard as you can for 4 hours, and then going to work the next day with no sleep, you know, because most of your employers, they don't care that you were out fighting a fire for 5 hours. You know, the craziest thing is when you have a serious call, the place that you want to end up with after the call is in the firehouse, and you go to work and you're around all these people that don't realize what you just did. And so I think a lot of that, pardon me, I'm sorry, I should have muted that, my mistake. So a lot of that has to do with people saying, you know what, enough's enough, I just can't keep up with it. You know, especially with the ambulance. I mean, everybody that's on the ambulance at night, except for the guys that are sleeping, guys and women that are sleeping in the station, they all have full-time jobs and families that they have to answer to. So it's really demanding, and it gets very tiring. So the whole thing is to, you know, make them want to keep doing that. And the less drama that comes up in the process of doing that, the more they want to keep doing it.
Okay, thank you.
So,
So I think that's everything I have, and if neither of you have any follow-ups.
No, but,
I'm good.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
But we
Thank you
appreciate
for,
you jumping in on the
yeah,
spot.
thank you.
Yeah, it's tough to do it.
Especially when you,
I got a little nervous, I gotta admit.
well, you weren't prepared for it, but thank you, I appreciate this.
All right, thanks for the opportunity, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Lieutenant Yvonne's here.
Yes, Lieutenant Yvonne here.
Any questions or comments?
Lieutenant Yvonne?
Lieutenant Yvonne is here.
so-
Do you want
Yes, no.
to question him?
Yeah, why not?
Tyler, the discussion was, is there was 2 board members who had interviewed you before.
Yeah.
We now have a new board member, and he
Rich?
just wants to
Hi.
ask a few
How are you?
questions.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Don't mean to put you on the spot, sorry.
I know, that's fine.
Larry,
Whatever.
you're good?
Yeah.
Just tell me your name.
Tyler Yvonne,
Okay. You're a resident of Granby?
South Hadley.
South Hadley, right across the line, right?
Yep.
Okay. I missed you at the time. I went in and
Yeah, I heard.
met up with Micheline and Gene and the chief
Yep.
one time when I was there. So I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Glad we got the opportunity to come by here.
Yep. How long you been on Granby? Yeah.
13 years since 2008.
And you got what for education on?
Master's in public administration, more specialized in the fire service, and bachelor's in healthcare management.
Yeah. And there's certified in NIMS 100, 200, 300, no, that's
400.
400, okay.
Yep. Yep. And on top of that, I've taken certification classes through the Mass Fire Academy, Fire Officer 1, 2.
Yeah.
Still waiting on the third one, because they're not scheduling anything now, or very limited. So just a whole slew of education, just like many of the other guys and women.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more why you went on to be the interim chief for now until we appointed permanent chief?
I feel like I have a good perspective in the department. I've been on there for a while. I'm actually the longest serving full-timer right now.
Mm-hmm.
We had a major turnover a couple of years ago, probably 75%, I would say, maybe even more. So I feel like I built a good rapport with the members of the fire department, and I've been progressive and loyal and dedicated and passionate about it. So I think those are good qualities to have to hopefully get this department through to the next step to permanent chief.
Perfect. Now, I was asking Bill earlier about there's like 7 lieutenants and
Yep.
the command structure. How would you
I've had many visions
change
over
that?
the years.
Yep.
They've all changed with the environment of how the department is. Right now, we're in a special case where we do have all lieutenants, and we need some structure there. I mean, it's difficult. So I would be looking for us to have a deputy chief at times, at a certain time, a couple captains, and the rest lieutenants. I mean, we need something. So, it's,
And with your budget limitations on it, would you be able to staff them full-time?
probably not at this point. I don't know if the deputy's been budgeted in. I don't believe it has. And I don't know if the captain would be really require a much increase in funds. I mean, it's not too bad, but to make all those changes at once, I don't think the budget would be able to carry that.
You do it slowly?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, there's mentioned working with other people on, there could be friction at time with all the lieutenants on do you feel that when you're there?
I mean, there's bumps along the way. Yeah. I mean, everyone
Okay.
has their own opinions.
It's
of
not
how
a
things-
problem, though. Everybody's got opinions. I understand that, yeah.
I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it holds up progress.
Okay.
I mean, we're all adults, so hopefully we can understand each other's opinions and work through them. Especially, with the officer staff. I mean, we're there to try to lead the department and keep everyone safe. So,
Yeah. Do you, besides, where would you put your command structure if you get a deputy chief or a captain? Would you have them day shift, afternoon, 4 to midnight to 8?
I mean, my current vision is we'd have obviously permanent chief
Yeah.
and a full-time deputy, and then I'm undecided on the captains and lieutenants.
Would you have the deputy chief and you on the same shift? Or would it be an overlapping
I
shift?
mean, that's the traditional, but it'd be nice to have someone in charge on the weekends and stuff, the non-Monday through Friday, but I don't know if that's very valid. We'd have to look into that.
Okay. Just looking there, I come from a law enforcement background,
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking you, and there's always a shift supervisor, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we always had a shift supervisor. Some of them were privates that had OIC of the day, so it'd most likely be the senior person would have the officer in charge, and we've always had that. It's just has changed. Now we have 2 lieutenants working opposite, which cover that supervisory role,
Yeah.
and obviously the chief Monday through Friday. So.
How do you think the other lieutenants relate to you right now?
I'd like to think good. I'd
Yeah.
like to hope they see my hard work and dedication to the department, especially over the years, and my consistency. I mean, I think consistency is key, because then you know what you're getting, So,
If you get it, where do you see the department going in the near future?
well, for the interim fire chief position, hopefully
Yeah.
that'll only be a few months.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of progress to be made. We have to review SOGs. We finally got the rules and regulations in play, which is great.
Did you assist on that?
Yeah, which, I mean, it's a great foundation for us that we haven't had. Now we have to get into the standard operating guidelines. We have to update them, make sure they're relevant, and whatever else we need to add in. And I mean, we really need to keep plucking away at officer development and just succession planning, because really we haven't had any succession planning in that place. So, and it's made it hard for me over my career not having a roadmap to anything,
Right.
So,
How about what would you do to boost the on-call people?
hopefully, if they see progress being made and dedication by members, I mean, we just got 3 acting lieutenants in there who are very committed, gung-ho, and I think they definitely add some energy to the officer staff. Hopefully we can stay standardized. I'd like to see some accountability, obviously standards, and structure. I mean, we need structure, and hopefully we'll be able to build morale through that. And
Any recruiting ideas?
yeah, I mean, I'd like to obviously recruit. From what I've heard, there's a few applications on the desk right now, 5 applications on the desk right now, so those need immediate attention. Those need to be brought in, and because we're working from the same pool of people, no matter what. I mean, we can only take people from such a distance away. So whoever moves into town, I mean, that's our pool of people,
Yeah.
pretty much, you know? So we gotta capitalize on that.
I'm good. You guys have anything?
Yeah.
No, I don't
You
have.
remember the?
I remember
Okay.
your interview before.
Okay, you all set?
Yep, I'm
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Micheline while she's here?
No.
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 Okay. So we've heard everything that all of the candidates that are here have had to say. Well, except for Mitch. We've heard Mish's and he's spoken to her. So I'm going to suggest that we take your thoughts into consideration and sit on this for the weekend, and we can address it next week.
Maybe we should tell about what you were talking about, meeting with the lawyer. Luke Tyler and Mish that, about a short period of time.
No, I know what he's saying.
Resignations.
That's gonna be told
After you
to
get your-
everybody, not just, we can't, you can notify each one individually,
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
yes. I understand what you're
Perfect.
saying.
That's good.
Yeah.
So then, what do we have on the agenda for Monday? Liquor licensing?
Basically, we just have the liquor license as the,
Warrants.
and then we have Jeremy Carrier coming in.
Okay, so we have liquor and Jeremy, so that should be,
Right, there's an issue. adding
Jeremy,
it
that's
to
gonna be
the-
great.
is there an issue adding it under old business?
Or, right,
I
if
don't
it's
know.
already been
It's
posted.
already been posted, I know.
That's
Yeah,
the issue.
it is.
That's the concern.
Have we posted Wednesday's meeting yet?
Well, you still have time because you could still do that on Wednesday because.
That's what I'm saying, if we haven't
You would-
posted.
You could change the agenda and then that would still give you that 48-hour notice.
Yeah,
So let's just do both police and fire on Wednesday?
yeah.
Does that sound? Because we're already meeting Wednesday for the police chief interviews.
That's the 4th, right?
That is
Yeah.
Wednesday the 4th, yes. So then we will make the decision on both chiefs, to be honest. A permanent chief and an interim chief. Does that work for you?
It does, yeah.
Works
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why
All
not?
right.
But before that,
Yeah.
I think it's important that, so we distinguish who is responsible right now for the fire department.
Okay.
So I think that's
I will.
and I think it's fine just going with whoever is
I would
the,
consider that to be Tyler.
Senior,
That would be-
whoever the senior lieutenant is at this point,
I would consider that.
full-time senior lieutenant.
That would be, I believe. Tyler, you are the full-time senior lieutenant, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, that being said, I think this board is in agreement that you are now in charge of the department until our decision is made on Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah, we need,
Yes.
right, someone's gotta be the,
Yep, somebody's got to be the point person, and that would be you until Wednesday at least.
so I'm gonna make a motion that Tyler Yvonne will be in charge of the fire department as rank of lieutenant, due to being the senior lieutenant and full-time senior lieutenant at that point, until this board makes a final decision for the interim chief.
Did you get that motion?
I'll second that. Yes, I did,
Well,
sorry.
thank you, sir.
Is there any discussion? Hearing
No,
none,
I'm
all in
good.
favor?
Aye.
All righty, so that is settled, and I know this was not on our list of things.
Don't mention it.
Why not? Fine,
So, if you don't mind, there's two things I do want to bring up.
sure.
First of all, I did receive, it was a communication with George Randall, Senior. He's made interest to me that he would be interested in serving as part of the search committee for fire chief. So, I just, he brought that to me, so I want to make sure the board.
George Randall the third.
Third?
Not senior. He's
No.
the third.
He's the third.
Third, oh, the third then. I was always
Well,
senior.
I just don't want you saying senior when he's
Oh,
really
I
the
didn't, I
third.
always thought he was senior.
Nope,
No.
Wow.
and
Yeah.
other George is the fourth.
I was
Wow.
thinking the same thing, Glenn. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking. He also reached out to me too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I thought he
We've
was senior.
also received interest from Jessica Randall.
We have received
I
it.
just saw that letter,
Huh?
yes.
Yes, so,
Did, you get a chance to talk to Chief Spakenbell?
Spanicle.
Yeah, I call him Spanky.
Yeah,
Everybody does up there.
but I haven't spoken to him. I wanted to wait and see where we're going with this because we still have time to appoint the search committee type of thing. And I know you mentioned he was going on, or he mentioned he was going on vacation the second week of August.
Yeah, first or second week, I forget which one.
Okay, so I figured when he came back is when we could have a discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
And one last thing too, I know last week or week before, the police chief search committee presented a letter to the select board. Someone has reached out to me and asked that part of that letter indicated why a certain candidate didn't want to be part of the interview process.
This
They
is the
wanted-
meeting I missed.
So I just want that maybe at our next meeting, we could just speak to that.
Sure.
Okay. I think it's, I know that was a concern that the search committee had as well, so as respect to them and me as the chair of the search committee and as a member of the select board, I want to make sure that we address the issue.
Sure thing.
Not the issue, address the concern
The
that came
concern?
forward, yes.
So do you want to address that at Monday's meeting?
Monday's meeting, we can,
Okay.
next full meeting, yeah. I
When
know
we're on
it's,
that.
I know it's Friday,
Yeah.
at 6:30, so.
Pick a meeting, any meeting. We've got a bunch of them coming up.
While we're talking about that, Glenn, after receiving the questions the search committee had, I think I'm kind of hindered without knowing the answers that they gave you on that.
Okay.
Is there any way we could get a copy of some of those answers before
I have.
I submit my own?
Yeah, I have answers, I can write them down for you, but again, the other people have answers too, so, Chris, is there a way that this board can talk to the search committee? The full search committee as far as discussing the interview process for the two last candidates? If not, then I guess you'd have to.
When do you want to talk to him?
That would be Tuesday.
Yeah, I just, in doing so, I don't think it's fair for me to give my answers,
Well,
and when other people had input.
I
too.
had contacted another member, and he was gonna try and get me his notes on Monday. Okay? I haven't had a chance to talk to everybody. I don't know if they all took notes, or if they, it'd
Yeah.
just be like shorthand that only you would know
This bill?
what the answer was.
Well, I know my shorthand is what I know, that's why I said. I
Yeah,
can-
okay. No, I get it,
What
I
I'm
get
just
it, yeah.
saying is everybody would take notes
Yeah.
with statements that would
Yeah.
just jog their memory as to what was being said.
However, though, Rick, if you want, and I'm not, we can run all the same questions, if you like what those questions look like, we can run them all again.
No, I hate being redundant. That would make the meeting last till
Well,
midnight.
I
yeah.
agree with the non-redundancy, but there are a few that I think I would like to
Yeah.
ask. I think
I mean, if
there's
you want
two.
to-
On that, yeah.
I mean, so that
Because
way.
they are
you
good
can-
questions.
That way,
You guys were very thorough.
and I just say that way, you hear it directly. For me to give you what my notes are versus what someone may say to you, may be two different, may make you feel different, I don't know.
But
So
but
we
don't forget, this is a public interview. So what they said to you in a non-public meeting will now be said that everybody can hear, which may help people in understanding where the candidate is coming from. It's gonna be redundant, it's gonna be, this is now a public interview. So your answers are gonna be heard by the community.
Right, that's kind of the point of making, so if you want to,
Yeah.
you get the full feeling for what the question and the answer versus me just giving you my notes, because, again, for myself, putting notes down is, as I'm listening, writing down some key words that someone's saying.
Right, you know,
Jotting
that's
them up.
exactly what I
that-
would have done.
Right, so that gives you some insight, but it does give you the full picture, I would say. So again, I'd
Okay.
say if you look into, I would say just, let's go through the questions again. I think that makes sense, as Chris kind of just mentioned as well. And, you know, it gives a full, you know, yourself and Jen get the full effect of what the questions were and their answers. And if you want to ask additional questions, you can. If you want to subtract some of the questions, then I think that's fine too.
How long did your interviews take with all of those questions?
I think most of them ran just about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes.
So they would fall into our timeline
Yeah.
if those were all
Yeah,
decided?
they ran it just about that, yep.
Okay.
Well, the two interviews are scheduled for 6 and 7, just so you know.
Yep.
Because that's the way we did it
Right,
with the
Yep.
search
Some-
committee, to give them
some
time to
Finish their notes and
finish your notes,
process their thoughts.
maybe talk amongst yourselves a little bit, and go from there.
Okay.
Okay, that works.
Sounds good. And was there anything else?
No.
All right, and then in that case, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
And I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.